A shocking arrival. The gleaming spires of Galactic University X9 pierced the lavender sky of Nexus Prime, a testament to the collaborative achievement of 1,000 alien races. For millennia, the most brilliant minds from across the Milky Way had flocked to this hub of learning, each species contributing its unique perspectives to the ever-expanding pool of cosmic knowledge. Today, however, was different. Today, the university would welcome its first human student. Professor Zilkstor, a respected Arcturian scientist with scales that shimmered like polished obsidian, paced nervously in the reception hall. His tentacles twitched with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. "Are we certain this is wise, Chancellor?" he asked, turning to face the towering crystalline form of Chancellor Lamoira. The Chancellor's faceted body refracted the light from nearby stars, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the hall. "The decision has been made, Zilkstor. The Galactic Council believes it's time to give these humans a chance." A low murmur rippled through the gathered crowd of students and faculty. Humans were a contentious topic in galactic society. A young species, barely a century into faster-than-light travel, humans had burst onto the intergalactic scene with a bewildering mix of primitive technology and inexplicable innovations. Their homeworld, Earth, was still divided into nation-states, and their history was marred by conflict. Yet, they had also displayed remarkable adaptability and an uncanny knack for thinking outside established norms. The murmur grew to a crescendo as a sleek, silver shuttle descended from the sky, touching down on the landing pad with graceful precision. As the door slid open, the assembled aliens held their breath. Zara Chen stepped out, her eyes wide with wonder as she took in the alien landscape. At 19 years old, she was the pride of Earth's fledgling space program, brilliant, determined, and now a reluctant ambassador for her entire species. "Greetings, citizens of the galaxy," Zara said, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "I am honored to be here." Chancellor Lamoira stepped forward, her crystalline form towering over the human girl. "Welcome to Galactic University X9, Zara Chen of Earth. We hope your time here will be enlightening for all involved." As Zara followed the Chancellor into the university, whispers erupted among the students. "Look how fragile it is," hissed a Vexillian student, his barbed tentacles curling in disgust. "How did such a species ever make it to the stars?" "I heard they still use combustion engines," chittered Azul Blaxian, her compound eyes blinking rapidly. Primitive doesn't begin to describe it. But not all reactions were negative. A lanky Syrian named Cax found himself intrigued by the human's confident stride. "She doesn't seem afraid," he murmured to his friend Nyx, a bioluminescent Aquilian. "That's admirable, given the circumstances." Nyx's tendrils pulsed with curious light patterns. "Indeed, I wonder what she's capable of." As the day progressed, Zara found herself subjected to a battery of tests and orientations. The alien technology was leaps and bounds ahead of anything she'd encountered on Earth, but she was determined not to show her awe or confusion. In the quantum physics lab, Professor Zilkstor hovered over Zara as she struggled with a multidimensional equation. "Perhaps this is too advanced for you, human," he said, his voice a mix of condescension and genuine concern. "We can arrange for more basic studies if needed." Zara felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she squared her shoulders and met the professor's gaze. "With all due respect, sir, I'd like to continue. This may be new to me, but I'm a quick study." Zilkstor's scales rippled with surprise. "Very well, but do not be discouraged when you fail. It's to be expected, given your species' limitations." As the professor glided away, Zara clenched her fists under the desk. She'd known this wouldn't be easy, but the reality of the challenge before her was daunting. She wasn't just here to learn. She was here to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Later that evening, exhausted from the day's trials, Zara retreated to her assigned living quarters. The room was clearly designed with alien physiologies in mind. The bed was a gelatinous pod, and the bathroom facilities were a bewildering array of tubes and membranes. As she sat on the edge of the pulsating bed pod, a holographic message flickered to life. It was her parents, their faces etched with pride and worry. "Zara, honey, how was your first day?" her mother asked, her voice tinged with static from the vast distance between them. Zara forced a smile. "It was intense, but I'm managing." Her father leaned closer to the camera. "Remember, sweetheart, you're not just representing yourself out there. The hopes of all humanity are riding on you. No pressure, right?" He chuckled, but the weight of his words hung heavy in the air. After the call ended, Zara flopped back onto the bed pod, which conformed to her body in a not unpleasant embrace. The magnitude of her task threatened to overwhelm her. How could she, a single human girl, hope to change the perceptions of an entire galactic community? But as she drifted off to sleep, a spark of determination flickered in her chest. She might be out of her depth, but humans had always thrived when pushed to their limits. Tomorrow was another day, another chance to prove herself. In the darkness of her room, unbeknownst to Zara, a small cleaning drone observed her with more than routine interest. Its sensors recorded her breathing patterns, her body temperature, the minute twitches of her muscles as she dreamed. Elsewhere in the university, this data was being meticulously analyzed. For while Zara thought she was here merely to learn, the truth was far more complex. The arrival of the first human at Galactic University X9 was more than an educational experiment. It was the opening move in a high-stakes game that would determine humanity's place in the cosmic order. As the first day drew to a close, the stage was set for a year that would challenge not just Zara's abilities, but the very foundations of galactic society. In the vast tapestry of the universe, a single thread, fragile yet stubborn, had been woven in. Only time would tell whether it would strengthen the fabric or cause it to unravel entirely, the curious human. The first week at Galactic University X9 had been a whirlwind for Zara. Each day brought new challenges, from deciphering alien languages to grappling with transdimensional mathematics. But as the initial shock wore off, Zara's natural curiosity began to shine through. In her xenobiology class, Professor Grix, a gelatinous morphon, was lecturing on the intricacies of carbon-based life forms. "As you can see," Grix burbled, his amorphous body rippling with each word, "carbon-based organisms are inherently limited in their adaptability." Zara's hand shot up, drawing surprised looks from her classmates. "Excuse me, Professor, but isn't it true that carbon-based life forms have been found in some of the most extreme environments in the galaxy? From the methane lakes of Titan to the sulfuric acid clouds of Venus." The class fell silent. Professor Grix's form quivered, a sign of surprise in morphon body language. "Well, yes," he admitted reluctantly. "But those are outliers, not the norm." "But doesn't that suggest a remarkable adaptability?" Zara pressed. "If life can evolve to thrive in such diverse conditions, doesn't that challenge our assumptions about its limitations?" A low murmur spread through the class. Grix's gelatinous form swirled with conflicting colors. "An interesting perspective, Miss Chen. Perhaps we should discuss this further after class." As the students filed out, Zara found herself approached by Cax, the lanky Syrian she had noticed on her first day. "That was impressive," he said, his long snout twitching with interest. "Most students wouldn't dare challenge Professor Grix." Zara shrugged, a gesture that seemed to fascinate Cax. "I'm not trying to challenge anyone. I just think there's always more to learn, you know." Cax's large, luminous eyes blinked rapidly. "I think I do. Would you like to join our study group? We meet in the quantum library after classes." Grateful for the olive branch, Zara agreed. That afternoon, she found herself surrounded by a motley crew of alien students. There was Nyx, the bioluminescent Aquilian, Zaxti, a multi-limbed arachnoid with a gift for spatial reasoning, and Eloin, a gaseous nebulite who communicated through pulsating color patterns. As they delved into their studies, Zara was struck by how differently each species approached problem-solving. The arachnoid Zuxti could visualize complex geometries with ease, while Elohim's gaseous nature allowed for a unique understanding of particle physics. "What about you, Zara?" Nix asked, her tendrils glowing with curiosity. "How do humans typically approach these concepts?" Zara paused, considering. "Well, we often use analogies to familiar things. Like, we might compare quantum entanglement to a pair of gloves. If you randomly grab one and find it's left-handed, you instantly know the other is right-handed, no matter how far apart they are." The aliens exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of confusion and intrigue. "That's an unusual way of thinking about it," Cax mused. "But I can see how it might be helpful for visualizing abstract concepts." As the study session progressed, Zara found herself drawing more and more on her human perspective. She explained how Earth scientists had used observations of nature to inspire technological breakthroughs, from Velcro mimicking birds to wind turbines inspired by humpback whale fins. "Fascinating," Zuxti chittered, her multiple eyes blinking in rapid succession. "To think that such a technologically limited species could glean so much from simple observation." Zara bristled slightly at the limited comment, but chose to focus on the positive. "Sometimes, not having advanced technology forces you to think creatively," she explained. "Humans have a long history of making do with what we have." As the group dispersed, Zara felt a small surge of pride. For the first time since arriving, she felt like she had something valuable to contribute. However, not everyone was impressed by the humans' growing influence. Vrex, a Vixillian student who had been openly hostile to Zara since her arrival, watched the study group with narrowed eyes. "This is unacceptable," he hissed to his cronies. "That primitive is polluting our superior minds with her backwards thinking." The next day, Professor Zilkstor announced a major project that would account for a significant portion of their grade. "You will be tasked with designing a theoretical propulsion system capable of faster-than-light travel without relying on conventional warp technology," he explained, his tentacles waving excitedly. "This is your chance to push the boundaries of known physics." The class buzzed with excitement and trepidation. FTL travel without warp drives was considered nearly impossible by most of the galactic community. As Zara left the classroom, her mind already racing with ideas, she overheard Vrex boasting loudly. "My design will revolutionize space travel," he proclaimed, his barbed tentacles quivering with arrogance. "Unlike some, I won't be relying on primitive combustion principles or other obsolete human concepts." Zara bit her tongue, reminding herself that actions spoke louder than words. She threw herself into research, spending long hours in the quantum library and brainstorming with her study group. Weeks passed, and the project deadline loomed. Zara had made progress, but she still felt like she was missing something crucial. One evening, frustrated and exhausted, she decided to take a break and explore the university's arboretum. As she wandered among the exotic alien flora, her mind drifted to childhood memories of visiting botanical gardens on Earth. She recalled a fascinating exhibit on the Rafflesia, a parasitic plant that produced the largest known flower in the world. Suddenly, an idea struck her. What if the principles of parasitic plants could be applied to space travel? Instead of generating its own warp field, could a ship theoretically latch onto naturally occurring spatial distortions in the fabric of space-time? Energized by this new concept, Zara rushed back to her quarters and worked through the night, refining her calculations and design. When she finally presented her project to the class, even Professor Zilkstor seemed taken aback. "A biomimetic approach to FTL travel," he mused, his tentacles curling thoughtfully. "Utilizing natural space-time distortions like a parasitic organism. It's unorthodox, certainly, but the math appears sound." Vrex, however, was livid. "This is absurd," he sputtered. "You can't possibly be taking this seriously. It's based on a primitive Earth plant." Professor Zilkstor fixed Rex with a stern gaze. "Innovation often comes from unexpected sources, Mr. Vrex. Ms. Chen's approach, while unusual, demonstrates a level of creative thinking that is precisely what this project was designed to encourage. As the class ended, Zara found herself surrounded by curious classmates, peppered with questions about her design and the Earth organisms that inspired it. Even some of the more skeptical students seemed intrigued by her novel approach. Later, as Zara celebrated with her study group, Cax raised a toast with his three-fingered hand. To Zara, he said, his large eyes gleaming, who reminds us that there's always a new way to look at old problems. Nick's tendrils pulsed with agreement. Perhaps we've underestimated humans, she admitted. Your species' way of thinking. It's different, but not without merit. Zara smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the strange alien beverage she was drinking. For the first time since arriving at Galactic University X9, she felt like she truly belonged. But as Zara basked in her success, she remained unaware of the ripples she was creating across the campus. Her unorthodox approach had caught the attention of more than just her classmates and professors. In the shadowy corners of the university, forces both curious and sinister were taking note of the unexpected potential of this human student. The game was changing, and Zara Chen, unwitting catalyst that she was, stood at the center of a shift that would soon rock the foundations of galactic society. Rising tensions. As news of Zara's innovative project spread throughout Galactic University X9, the atmosphere on campus began to shift. Many students and faculty members were intrigued by the human's unique approach to problem-solving, but others viewed her growing influence with suspicion and resentment. Zara found herself at the center of attention, invited to participate in advanced research projects, and asked to give guest lectures on human perspectives in galactic science. While part of her reveled in the recognition, another part felt the weight of responsibility growing heavier by the day. One afternoon, as Zara was leaving the quantum physics lab, she overheard a heated conversation around the corner. "This has gone too far," Vrex's distinctive voice hissed. "The human is making a mockery of our superior intellects. Something must be done." "But what can we do?" Another voice replied, sounding uncertain. The professors seem impressed by her ideas. "We'll show them how dangerous those ideas can be," Vrex said, his tone dripping with malice. "I have a plan." Zara's heart raced as she silently retreated, her mind whirling with implications. She debated whether to report what she'd heard but hesitated, worried about seeming paranoid or causing more tension. Instead, she confided in her study group. Cax's large eyes widened with concern, while Nick's tendrils pulsed with agitation. "You must be careful, Zara," Zuxti chittered, her multiple limbs twitching nervously. "Not everyone appreciates change, especially when it challenges long-held beliefs." Eloin, the nebulite, swirled with dark colors of worry. "Perhaps we should inform the Chancellor," she suggested, her thoughts transmitted through subtle color shifts. Zara shook her head. "Not yet. We don't have any proof. Let's just stay alert for now." The next few weeks passed in a haze of heightened tension. Zara threw herself into her studies and research, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. In the corridors, conversations would halt abruptly as she approached, only to resume in hushed tones after she passed. The breaking point came during a high-profile experiment in the university's main laboratory. Zara had been invited to participate in a demonstration of her biomimetic FTL theory, scaled down to a subatomic level. As she calibrated the equipment, surrounded by eager observers and hovering camera drones, Zara felt a surge of pride. This was her chance to prove the value of human ingenuity on a galactic stage. But as she initiated the experiment, something went terribly wrong. The equipment began to overheat, energy readings spiking to dangerous levels. "Shut it down," Professor Zilkstor shouted, his tentacles flailing in alarm. Zara's fingers flew over the control panel, but nothing responded. The machine's whine grew to a deafening pitch, and she could see the terror in the eyes of those around her. In that moment of crisis, Zara's mind cleared. She remembered an old Earth technique for dealing with runaway nuclear reactions. Without hesitation, she grabbed a nearby container of coolant and, ignoring the burning pain, pried open a panel on the overheating machine. "Everyone out," she yelled, her voice cutting through the panic. As the room evacuated, Zara poured the coolant directly onto the machine's core, praying it would work. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then gradually, the machine's whine subsided, and the energy readings began to stabilize. In the aftermath, as medical drones treated Zara's burns, the laboratory was abuzz with a mix of relief and confusion. "I don't understand," Professor Zilkstor muttered, examining the machine. "The failsafes should have prevented this. It's almost as if someone sabotaged it," Cax finished, his eyes narrowing as he surveyed the room. Chancellor Lamoira arrived, her crystalline form refracting the emergency lights. "An investigation will be conducted immediately," she announced. "In the meantime, Miss Chen, your quick thinking may have saved many lives today. You have our gratitude." As the adrenaline wore off, Zara felt a complex mix of emotions wash over her. Pride at her successful intervention, fear at how close they'd come to disaster, and a growing anger at whoever had put them all at risk. In the days that followed, the university was gripped by a tense atmosphere. Security was tightened, and rumors flew about the cause of the accident. Many students, impressed by Zara's bravery, began to view her in a new light. Vrex and his cohorts, however, became increasingly isolated. While no evidence directly linked them to the sabotage, suspicion fell heavily on those who had been most vocal in their opposition to Zara's ideas. One evening, as Zara was returning to her quarters, she found Vrex waiting for her. His barbed tentacles were curled tightly, a sign of extreme agitation. "This isn't over, human," he snarled. "You may have them fooled, but I see through your act. You and your primitive species have no place here." Zara stood her ground, meeting his gaze steadily. "We're not here to replace anyone, Vrex. We're here to contribute, to learn and grow alongside everyone else. Why is that so threatening to you?" Vrex recoiled as if struck. For a moment, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Then, without another word, he slithered away into the shadows. As Zara entered her room, she found a message waiting for her. It was from Chancellor Lamoira, requesting a private meeting the next day. Settling into her gelatinous bed pod, Zara's mind raced. The accident had changed things, bringing simmering tensions to the surface. But it had also demonstrated the potential for cooperation across species lines. In the face of danger, divisions had momentarily melted away. As she drifted off to sleep, Zara couldn't help but wonder, what would it take for that spirit of unity to last? And what role would she play in shaping the future of galactic society? Little did she know, events were already in motion that would test not just her, but the entire galactic community in ways none of them could have imagined. The true challenge was yet to come, and Zara Chen, the curious human who had dared to think differently, would find herself at the very heart of it. The galactic crisis. The meeting with Chancellor Lamoira left Zara with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The crystalline being had been impressed by Zara's handling of the laboratory crisis and wanted to involve her in a top-secret research project. However, the nature of his project remained shrouded in mystery. "Miss Chen," the Chancellor had said, her facets glimmering with an unreadable expression, "your unique perspective may be crucial in the coming days. Be prepared." Zara had little time to ponder these cryptic words as the academic year progressed. She threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor, all while keeping a watchful eye on Vrex and his diminishing circle of supporters. It was during a routine astrophysics class that the crisis began. Professor Quix, a gaseous nebulite, was in the middle of a lecture on cosmic phenomena when every screen in the classroom suddenly flashed red. "Emergency alert," an automated voice announced. "Anomaly detected in nearby space. All students and faculty report to designated safe zones immediately." Chaos erupted as students of various species scrambled to evacuate. Zara found herself swept along with the crowd, her mind racing to understand what was happening. As they reached the university's central atrium, a massive holographic display flickered to life, showing a real-time view of the space surrounding Nexus Prime. What Zara saw made her breath catch in her throat. A swirling vortex of energy, unlike anything she'd ever seen, was forming just beyond the planet's orbit. Tendrils of crackling power lashed out, distorting the very fabric of spacetime around it. Chancellor Lamura's voice echoed through the atrium. "Remain calm. Our top scientists are analyzing the phenomenon. We will update you as more information becomes available." Hours passed, filled with tense speculation and growing fear. Zora huddled with her study group, watching as the anomaly grew larger and more unstable. "It's a type of spatial rift," Professor Zilkstor explained, his tentacles twitching nervously as he addressed the gathered crowd. "But its behavior defies all known laws of physics. Our attempts to close or contain it have been unsuccessful." A ripple of dismay spread through the atrium. Zora's mind raced, trying to connect this new threat with the Chancellor's earlier words. Could this be related to the secret project she'd been hinted about? As if in answer to her unspoken question, a guard approached Zora. "The Chancellor requests your presence in the Emergency Council chamber," he said, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in a sign of stress. Ignoring the surprised looks from those around her, Zara followed the guard through winding corridors until they reached a heavily secured door. Inside, she found a gathering of the university's top minds, along with several high-ranking galactic officials. Chancellor Lamura's crystalline form seemed dimmer than usual, a sign of the gravity of the situation. "Miss Chen, thank you for joining us. We find ourselves in need of alternative perspectives." Over the next hour, Zora listened as the assembled experts debated various theories and potential solutions. Traditional approaches involving energy-dampening fields and gravitational stabilizers had all failed. The anomaly continued to grow, threatening not just Nexus Prime, but neighboring star systems as well. "If we can't contain it soon," one official warned, "we may need to consider evacuating the entire sector." As the debate grew more heated, Zara's mind drifted to an old Earth legend she'd once read about, the story of the Gordian knot. Sometimes, when a problem seemed unsolvable, the solution was to approach it from a completely different angle. "Excuse me," Zara said, her voice cutting through the argument. All eyes turned to her, some curious, others skeptical. "What if we're looking at this the wrong way? Instead of trying to close the rift, what if we could redirect it?" A moment of stunned silence followed, broken by Professor Zilkstor's incredulous voice. "Redirect a spatial anomaly? That's never been done. It's theoretically impossible." Zara took a deep breath, steeling herself. "On Earth, we have a phenomenon called rivers. When they flood, sometimes the best solution isn't to try to stop the water, but to channel it in a less destructive direction." She quickly outlined her idea, drawing on principles from Earth's hydrodynamics and combining them with what she'd learned about cosmic string theory. Her plan involved creating a series of smaller, controlled rifts to act as channels, guiding the energy of the main anomaly away from populated areas. The room erupted into a flurry of discussion. Many dismissed the idea outright, but a few, including Chancellor Lamura, seemed intrigued. "It's risky," the Chancellor mused, her facets shimmering thoughtfully. "But at this point, we have little to lose. Professor Zilkstor, what would it take to implement Miss Chen's plan?" The next few hours were a blur of frantic calculations and hurried preparations. Zara worked alongside the galaxy's brightest minds, refining her theory and adapting it to the advanced technology available. As they worked, the anomaly continued to grow. Reports came in of ships going missing and entire asteroids being swallowed up. The pressure to act was immense. Finally, everything was ready. Zora stood in the control room, her heart pounding as she watched the massive energy projectors power up. This was it, the moment that would either save countless lives or go down in galactic history as a colossal failure. Initiating rift redirection sequence, Professor Zilkstor announced, his tentacles dancing over the controls. The scene that unfolded next was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Beams of energy lanced out from orbital platforms, tearing small, controlled holes in the fabric of space. For a moment, it seemed as if they had only made things worse, as the anomaly's tendrils lashed out with increased fury. But then, slowly, imperceptibly at first, the flow of energy began to change. Like a river finding a new course, the anomaly's power started to funnel through the smaller rifts, away from populated space. Hours passed in tense silence as they watched and waited. Gradually, the main anomaly began to shrink, its energy dispersed across a vast, uninhabited region of space. As the danger finally passed, a cheer went up in the control room. Zara found herself engulfed in a bizarre alien group hug, tentacles and appendages from a dozen different species wrapping around her in gratitude. Chancellor Lamura approached, her crystalline form glowing brightly. "Miss Chen, you have done a great service not just to this university, but to the entire galactic community. Your willingness to think beyond established norms may have saved billions of lives." Zara felt a wave of emotion wash over her, relief, pride, and a deep sense of connection to the beings around her. In this moment, the differences between species seemed insignificant compared to what they could achieve together. As news of the averted crisis spread, Zara knew that perceptions of humanity throughout the galaxy would never be the same. They had proven their worth not through advanced technology or military might, but through creativity, adaptability, and a unique way of looking at the universe. The crisis was over, but its impact was just beginning. As Zara looked out at the stars, she realized that a new chapter in galactic history was about to unfold, one in which humanity would play a far greater role than anyone could have imagined. Certainly, I'll conclude the story with Part 5. Part 5. Humanity's Legacy. In the weeks following the spatial anomaly crisis, Galactic University X9 buzzed with a new energy. The successful resolution of the threat had not only saved countless lives, but had also ushered in a paradigm shift in how different species viewed one another, particularly humans. Zara found herself at the center of this change, though she tried her best to downplay her role. It was a team effort, she would insist whenever someone praised her. "I just happened to have an idea that worked." But the impact of her contribution couldn't be denied. Lectures on human innovative thinking became the most popular courses on campus. Students from across the galaxy clamored to understand the unique problem-solving approaches that Earth's isolated development had fostered. Even Vrex, who had been Zara's most vocal opponent, approached her one day in the quantum cafeteria. His barbed tentacles were uncharacteristically still as he spoke. "I may have been hasty in my judgment," he said, each word seeming to cost him great effort. "Your actions during the crisis were admirable." Zara smiled, offering her hand in the human gesture of reconciliation. After a moment's hesitation, Vrex extended a tentacle to shake it. It wasn't friendship, not yet, but it was a start. As the academic year drew to a close, Chancellor Lamura called Zara to her office. The crystalline being's facets shimmered with barely contained excitement. "Miss Chen, your time here has exceeded all our expectations," she said. "The Galactic Council has taken notice. They're proposing a new initiative, an exchange program that would bring more humans to institutions across the galaxy, while also sending our brightest to study on Earth." Zara's eyes widened. "That's incredible. But will Earth be ready for such an exchange?" The Chancellor's form rippled in what Zara had come to recognize as laughter. "Your home planet will face challenges, certainly. But if you are any indication of humanity's potential, I believe the benefits will far outweigh any initial difficulties." As Zara prepared to return to Earth, her mind swirled with the implications of what she'd accomplished. She had come to Galactic University X9, hoping to prove that humans deserved a place among the stars. She was leaving having shown that humanity had something unique and valuable to offer the galactic community. On her last day, her study group threw her a farewell party. Cax, Nyx, Zaxti, and Eloin had become more than just classmates. They were her friends, a bridge between worlds. "You must promise to stay in touch," Nyx said, her tendrils pulsing with emotion. "There's still so much we can learn from each other." Zara nodded, fighting back tears. "I promise. This isn't an end, it's just the beginning." As her shuttle prepared for departure, Zara took one last look at the gleaming spires of Galactic University X9. She thought about the frightened, overwhelmed girl who had arrived here a year ago and marveled at how much had changed. The journey home was filled with anticipation. Zara knew that her experiences would help shape humanity's future interactions with the galactic community. There would be challenges ahead, misunderstandings to overcome, and new crises to face. But she was confident that together, the species of the galaxy could achieve wonders. Epilogue. 10 years later, Zara Chen, now Dr. Chen, stood on the podium of the newly established Earth Center for Galactic Cooperation. Behind her, a diverse crowd of humans and aliens waited eagerly for her address. 10 years ago, I stepped onto an alien world, unsure of my place in the universe, she began. Today, I stand before you as living proof of what can be achieved when we open our minds to new possibilities and our hearts to those different from ourselves. She gestured to the gleaming building behind her. This center represents more than just a place of learning. It is a symbol of humanity's commitment to playing an active, positive role in galactic affairs. Here, we will continue to exchange ideas, challenge assumptions, and work together to solve the greatest mysteries of the cosmos. As she spoke, Zara caught sight of familiar faces in the crowd. Cax, now an ambassador from his homeworld. Nyx, leading a team researching the applications of bioluminescence in space travel. Even Rex, who had become an outspoken advocate for interspecies cooperation. "We have much to learn," Zara continued, "but we also have much to offer. Our creativity, our adaptability, our unique perspective as newcomers to the galactic stage. These are gifts we bring to our shared future among the stars." As applause erupted from the assembled crowd, Zara felt a sense of pride and purpose wash over her. The journey that had begun with one curious human girl had blossomed into a movement that was reshaping the galaxy. Humanity had found its place among the stars, not through conquest or technological superiority, but through the very qualities that made them human: curiosity, creativity, and an unwavering spirit of exploration. As Zara looked up at the sky, now filled with ships from 100 different worlds, she smiled. The universe was vast and full of wonders, and humanity was ready to embrace its role in the grand cosmic story. The end was just the beginning.